This is Uncharted, a series of candid conversations about facing uncertainty. When we are called upon to be courageous, the strength of our leadership is tested. Red Direction has developed the Fast Track Your Business program to help you stay aligned to your business's true north. Jess Dewell is your guide. Jess brings you a 20-year track record of business excellence where strategy and operations overlap. Your path comes from consistently working from this special place, your unique true north. Now, here's Jess.
People, fast track your business people, bold business podcast people. We are here today. We are talking about uncharted waters. And this is so important because every single time we have one of these conversations, there is a tidbit that I walk away with and I get to learn from, and I'm excited to share that with you today. And you're going to discover it right along with me. I am pleased to get to spend some time with Tobin Lehman today. He is the author and the founder of New North, an award-winning digital marketing agency. He's dedicated to helping business-to-business technology firms grow. Now, with 2 decades of experience and this design eye and this hearing ear, he has worked with companies like Southern States, Pfizer, Thermo Fisher Scientific, Kimberly-Clark, and that's only naming a few. Now, over time, he is earning industry reputation, not just earned, continuing to earn a reputation for taking the mystery out of marketing with clear strategies that earn real results. And we're going to be talking some serious business today and what it actually means, like going behind the curtain and of the orchestration of it all, right, Tobin?
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's going to be a good time.
It's going to be a good time. And one of the things that came out of our prep for this was you were just coming back from a sabbatical. And so
yes.
How did you decide? I just have to start here. How did you decide it was time to take a sabbatical?
Wow, that's a great question. Way to start, way at the top. So for me, two major factors. One, as of September, I'll be 13 years running this business. Been a good bit of time. Time to, kind of climb the mountain to a certain pace. Sometimes you got to stop and look around. So I felt the need internally to stop and look around. Two, last year was tough. Like I used my own version of COVID burnout, and we got through it, which was great. All those things good, but it was like those two things aligning, saying, I need some perspective. There is a life past whatever last year was. And I already felt that urge to kind of get some perspective. And so that led to the idea, like even in March, and I ended up taking my sabbatical in July. When I started the process in March of planning for it, it's like, this will be something good this year to do.
So you took a good 90 days to plan a sabbatical.
Yes. Yeah. And I would recommend that. I actually didn't think that till like one day I was Googling, like, how do you take a sabbatical? Right. It's like everyone does for their life questions. Right. And so I found a couple articles, and it was wise, right? It's something people saying like, well, you set it up, you need to make sure your team's ready. You need to kind of get to the preparation. And my grand idea was to just like pop in and be like, hey, I'm going to be out for a while, but that would have been a disaster now that I kind of see it. Plus I still have in my role, client-facing responsibilities. So it would have been strange, would have been questioned without doing it. So yeah, having a process. Now it was a personal process for probably the first 2 months. It's only about a month with the team and with clients and things like that. So first couple months were just, what am I going to do? Like, having a plan for the sabbatical was really key. I mean, I think we all could find something to do for a month. That's not a problem. We could, enjoy the town we live in or walk around or things, but actually having a day-by-day plan, actually have a calendar I printed out, and every day, like what I was going to accomplish, what I was going to do, how I was going to stay on track and accomplish something. And that was really beneficial because I got those things done, able to stay on track, because the temptation very early, I could tell you, was to like, let's just chill. Let's just hang out, right? Let's not be productive. I would say I was easily as productive, in a sabbatical mode, if not more, than I would be like in a work mode, because I just had objectives over here versus objectives over here. I lost clients on sabbatical. But it's okay. I'm 12 years in business. Business comes back. Business grows. Like you're doing this. So I think people probably have this fear, like I let go of the wheel, bad things are gonna happen. Oh yeah, they will. for sure. But you have to have a different view of like I have an abundance mindset. That's kind of part of who I am. Like there will be new work, there will be new clients, we will grow. Like we lose some, we will gain some. Like there's plenty of clients out there. Like I'm not going to lose sleep over losing one. Like I regret losing it, I don't want to lose them, but I'm also not at a place where I'm feeling like I'm going to, lose sleep over it in the same sense. Like this idea that there's an abundancy of work. There's more than enough clients for us, more than enough work for us. We can always just find more of it. It's a matter of getting out there. So I didn't want to be so rosy that it was all great. And I was like, no, there was like we had let somebody go, like we lost some clients. But with the bigger changes coming into the sabbatical, I already had to make that mental change and shift to be okay with whatever outcomes come, because it was about the break and those kind of things.
So sometimes I think, and I hear this with some of my clients too, that I need to take time off and I need to take like 6 weeks off in a row. Yet what they're saying, that seems to be like camouflaging or code for, I don't know how to continue. I'm burnt out. And it sounds like the way you went about it, did you have any of those sensational feelings behind the scenes that were like spurring this forward into fruition?
Yeah, I would say, yeah. I mean, like I said, definitely feeling the burnout from the previous year, long haul. But what I've also realized in my own life, and I think it's pretty true with other people, like, yes, we want to turn the noise down, but as an entrepreneur, as a leader, like you're not good just doing nothing. Like that's not your thing. Like you need to be doing something, growing, expanding, like having some guidance to that. And so like even my wife in her infinite wisdom is like, you need a plan for this. Like it's not going to go well. Like you won't be happy at the end of it if you just sit around for a month. Like you'll go crazy. Like I don't personally believe in retirement either. Like I have no plans around golf like at any point in my life for multiple months in a row. Like I'm going to do something with my life. Like it's just a matter of doing something different. And I think that was the big key, was doing something different, taking a break from this. I mean, I did yard work. I did, things like that, took some hikes, day trips, things like that, read different material, just like almost like a break from that to something different. And yeah, the burnout was there. And we all felt that sensation. Like, I just need to stop this train. A friend of mine has this, he says, I like to get off the merry-go-round. Like, yeah, I was going to get off the merry-go-round every so often. And I think when we don't do that as business owners or leaders, after a long time, that number tends to hyperbolize in our mind. Like, I need 5 weeks, like I need 6 months. Like we tend to over exaggerate, but really I would say I felt pretty refreshed just mentally in like 2 weeks.
Okay.
It's like just being so, I was properly disconnected, which I'm sure we'll talk about here in a minute, but I was able to get enough break where I felt like, you know what, I'm feeling pretty good now. Like I still am going to definitely work these next 2 weeks of sabbatical here and enjoy the time. But I think it was more than enough time than what I thought, like going into, it's like, man, month, I don't know if it's going to be enough. It was enough, like for me personally, because I did separate. Like I didn't check email at all. Like I didn't check in with the office at all. We had, we basically had a list of things that I had an executive assistant that I hired part of this for this sabbatical. I had like 2 things that she should break the glass for to reach out to me. One was like an employee emergency, like a death or something. Like I obviously want to know that. And that was basically it. And I saw her one day socially and she's like, I think I've got something. I'm like, well, you better check this. Like, I don't want to talk about work. And the police had called our office looking for something because there was a crime outside of our building. So I was like, yeah, that's fine. That's a fine reason to break glass to do that. But the big thing in the preparation time of those 2-3 months coming up to it was understanding what I want, what I'm going to be part of, what I'm not going to be part of. And actually my team, even as I brought this to them in the final months, actually the day before I left, even we were having conversations of things they can take off my plate going into it. So that was one of the bigger surprises in the preparation, was not only my own work, but the team around me, like having the support of that, which I thought was going to be mixed, was actually really positive. Like they saw that, they saw the burnout, they saw the need, like, you need to do this, we can handle this. People stepped up into roles that I was doing, which was fantastic. I mean, not to the same degree, but at least covered some of it. And so even up to the last hour, people were saying like, can I do that task that you normally do like this? I was like, sure. I can't train you because I'm out of here in an hour, but go forward, talk to this guy, talk to this person, they'll help you with it. So that was one of the big surprises of it, was when I did bring my team in, the love and support that I felt from them in that process.
That's really interesting. And I'm sorry that you were feeling some burnout too, to make this happen, because I was hoping you were going to say, no, it doesn't have to be like that. No, you don't have to wait until the worst of the worst is happening. And it sounds like you were somewhere in the middle, right? You recognized the tiredness, and you knew that if you didn't do something, there could be imminent crazy, and you were able to mitigate that. And so I think that would be, for me personally, my biggest takeaway in this moment is how we show up to the stresses around us could be that we are burning out. It also could be that we just need to reimagine what we're doing. And that may or may not need a sabbatical. And so for you, stepping away and taking this step back and getting this perspective, this new lens of things, do you mind me asking, what was the thing that you were learning and working on during your sabbatical?
Well, it's tied into the business. I'd tell you just basically the threshold, and it's a big story behind it. But I was taking the time mostly in the sabbatical, dealing with the stress components of all those things. But then the second hand, my promise to the business was really architecting the next level of growth. Like, so we've had 12 years of kind of making it to this point. As a small business this year, we are going to cross over being a $1 million business. So we're still fairly small. We'll be 1 million in revenue, which is great.
Congratulations.
And so that, as they say, you can't get there with what got you here. And so there needs to be a process, a time of rethinking that. And so I met with some consultants over sabbatical. I talked to some people. I read some really interesting material and books. And so for me, my promise back to the business was to come back different, to come back as a differently engaged kind of person, to have a different kind of view of how we're going to grow going here. Can't just brute force what we've been doing in greater scale and energy. That's not working. That's what kind of got to the burnout, right? Working harder, working longer. Like, eventually that doesn't work. And I've seen that. So it's kind of like, I'm going to come back different, come back with a different perspective, a different energy level, a different view of how we're going to get there, and almost just like mature. It's like almost like when back in the day, we used to go to grade school. We go to 9th grade and we take a summer break, and we get to 10th grade and we're like a little more mature. Like, similar thing, like just running hard for 12 years in the business and not ever having that bigger break to get perspective. Like, I think I'm greatly changed even in that time. Now I've had a little bit more with some illness, but in the same sense, like, the team senses the difference already. I'm very different in the business where I am now, even in those times. Like, it sounds crazy, like it was just 4 weeks, but it really does, because in that sabbatical, part of that process is you end up, when you pull out, you end up breaking a lot of strings that are tied to you. And the big benefits coming back has been, I get to pick and choose which strings or ropes I pick back up, because they were being covered by the team members here and there. So like, I'm actually not doing some of the things I've been doing for the past 12 years just because I took a break and came back and someone covered it. Whether that's my own lack of perspective or a team that steps up, I'm actually revisioning my role now in the company, because everything was working without me, for lesser purposes. Since I've been gone now and I come back, it's like, where am I really needed right now? Because I'm not stamping envelopes anymore. Not that I was, but I'm saying you get the metaphor. Like, I'm not doing little things that I was into because that had to be picked up and covered. Now I get to be more selective, see where my true value is to the business. And that's going to be part of the growth going forward.
Right. And so in the last 13 years, and reaching this, by the way, congratulations, an amazing level of success. Do you feel like, and I don't know how familiar you are with Jim Collins, but do you feel like you understand some of the elements of your flywheel, that this perspective has said, ooh, we can't help but do this now?
Yes. If I have to kind of think through his parlance a bit, but yes, because in stepping out, whatever part of the flywheel I was part of became a gap, right? And the team had to figure that out. I have a great number two at the company who helped step in some of that role, and other people stepped in part of it. So coming back in, like, the objectivity which it sounds, again, it may sound dramatic, but it really is. You come back after 4 weeks is enough time for our company that things have settled and moved on. They had to solve problems. They couldn't just wait till I came back. Like they had to. So I come back and I see the fly, because I'm basically choosing to come back into it. I'm not so blinded by the day-to-day activity that I can see what needs attention, what needs to be adjusted, and I'm still objective enough. And the temptation and the challenge now is actually to not get sucked back into being part of the flywheel, but actually creating it and making sure I stay objective to it, because otherwise I'd lose the gift of what the sabbatical has been from a perspective, and just get into punching numbers or doing this little task or doing those things. And so I would say, yeah, it definitely helps you get a better view of it just from the time and away. And you get to see now more objectively, like, how's the flywheel been spinning for the last month? And, getting, so I mentioned to you a little earlier, like I met with every team member when I came back, spent an hour just talking, not even talking about me, but just how they felt about it. What did they learn? What did they do? What did they think about the team and how they responded? So very objective for me about understand how the team and the company went while I was gone. I mean, they were interested in what I did, and I shared a little bit about that and shared about my vision for the company moving forward, but more about how is the flywheel going? Like what worked, what didn't work from their perspective. And I learned a ton, an absolute ton from that, because people were very candid, very open. I mean, they wanted to, give kudos to where it belongs and talk about the challenges they experienced. So really interesting, very interesting.
That's it. I love that you had a culture where candidness, when you came back, was not only accepted, but actually practiced, right? That's actually something where we really see what values stick and how they're showing up when we're not in the day-to-day. And I'm pausing with the value piece and inserting that here because you definitely need it going forward for growth, but you also need it from the perspective of, well, how, and you were even saying this at the beginning, my team was willing to step up. They wanted to take on these tests. They understood what it meant. They wanted to have success while I had stepped away to do this architecting of what's next. And so with the one-on-ones, with that objectivity, what are the types of questions that you were asking your team when you came back to find out how it went?
Oh man, I wish they were more sophisticated, but
you
really,
know what? Here's what I'm glad you started with that. I'm going to say, we tend to overthink things and want them to be sophisticated, and simplest is always best.
Yeah. So I basically started in with just, how did it go for you? Like, how is it? And I think I just initially changed the projection. You're probably thinking this was going to be some kind of lecture or something that I was giving them. It was like, hey, how did it go for you? Like, what was it like? And so then, following the thread of their conversation, they mentioned something. I might, say, tell me more about that. Like, what's that like? The second frame was really around, well, how do you think, I kind of tweaked this based on the conversation, but how did everyone else's behaviors meet or change your expectations? Like, did everyone kind of perform the way you thought they were? Or were there any anomalies, things that surprised you? What stuck out to you as you think about like what you were thinking was going to be like going in to the team? So it wasn't designed to be like a tattletale session, but in the same sense, like what were they surprised? Where did they see people step up? Like, give them a chance to give kudos or give them a chance to highlight issues and kind of work that culture there. But I think you're right in your earlier point. I mean, so much of this is predicated on the groundwork of the culture we've created and transparency. That's a big element for us. Openness, and we're very open, very transparent. So no, it wasn't, there wasn't any tension in it. Like they knew everything that we shared could be confidential, but also, would be, part of the process as we grow, and, we openly challenge one another and things like that. So I think the data I got back here is, part of the fact that it's already, the groundwork's been set for it, but really asking them about themselves and how they felt others went. And then, a little bit of like, in a sense, not like if I did this again, because I don't want them to think I was going to do this again, like right away. But like, if I were to do this again, what recommendations we have, how we would do it different. And it mostly turned into conversations of just like, well, so much of this went well, like it's interesting, like it turned into like where they saw my role going forward. And so it helped me kind of shape, okay, interesting, like they see that we had a gap here, we had a gap here, and kind of saw that. And actually, just as I'm thinking about it now, one of the things I did in preparation to this, and this is pretty bold. Okay, so this may fit with your audience pretty good. We do quarterly retreats. So on the quarter, so July 1st, when I took my sabbatical, was the beginning of quarter 3. Beginning of quarter 2, we had a retreat, and I knew this was something I was planning on, and I kind of want to anticipate where the issues would be, but I wanted to think about it. So I actually told one of my teammates that I was talking with that I was going to be doing this kind of in confidence. And I basically said, hey, I am not going to show up to the retreat for the first 8 a.m. is when we start up. I'm not going to show up. And at 8:15, when people are asking, like, where's Tobin? I want you to read this email. And basically the email, not to sound overly morbid for people, it basically said, what if Tobin didn't make it to the retreat today? What if he got into a car accident? What if something happened to him? How would we survive as a company? Could we? Would we? What would it look like? What roles would we take over? And it said, for all good purposes, Tobin will be here, but he'll be here at 9 a.m. and come a little bit later. So you have the next 45 minutes to basically brainstorm as a team of what the plan would look like. Now, I knew I was going into sabbatical in a couple months. They didn't necessarily know that at that point, but it was a fantastic exercise because as a growing business, growing entrepreneur, we know we're all the bottlenecks. Like we're the jam in the systems for a lot of growing businesses. So it was really interesting, the plan. I think the plan had some holes in it, obviously, just because it was very ad hoc. At 8 a.m. in the morning, people are still drinking coffee and everything, but it was really fascinating. And the team really responded well to the exercise. They thought, you know what, maybe we don't need him as much as we think we do, in the long run. So that was part of that preparation process getting into it. But that kind of came up again in those conversations post sabbatical of just, what is my role here? How do you see me being able to serve you best in what you're doing here as we go forward?
I like questions like that, by the way. And I'm a big proponent of not only, okay, so I have to ask this now. I'm a big proponent of quarterly retreats. And in fact, that's something that I do with a lot of our clients is quarterly we're getting together, and whether it's an offsite or a board meeting, it doesn't matter. The concept is very fluid based off of the desires and where each organization is. And so do you take time, or how about this? Maybe it's a before and after concept. Did you take time to work on your business each week, or did you wait until it was time to plan for those quarterlies? And how will that change now that you're back from sabbatical?
Oh, all good questions. Those are great. So I would say my working on the business was kind of hit and miss, seasonal, if you will, right? If there's fires in the business, less, there's good seasons, more, wasn't very disciplined going into it. But with the quarterly retreats, it, keeps a good perspective. We had time set aside. So there was set aside time, but me personally, not quite as much. Definitely more seasonal, more reactive. Coming back, and so we're also like an EOS company. We do traction, EOS. It's kind of our framework we do. So coming back now, though, I feel like I'm in a Jedi Zen mode here, coming back in. Like I can choose the engagement in a lot of cases. I'm setting a whole day aside. My calendar's actually just blocked. It's done. Like this is the day off, like off in the sense of like working in, working on. Mm-hmm. And so that's totally set aside. So that's going to be great. That's just part of the growth we've been able to experience too. And just a choice. Like I realized too, coming out of sabbatical, a lot of things we do are choices. We choose to compress our schedule. We choose to overlap those meetings when we know we can't get to both of them. We're going to pretend that maybe today we're going to get all that stuff done today. I think maybe it's my personality. Maybe people are sighing as they're listening to this too in their own minds. Like we think we're going to do these super things. And coming out of sabbatical, I just realized it's not really worth it. Like from the burnout energy perspective, like I'm looking at my calendar now, there's things I didn't get to, but even the beginning of this week, I went through and slashed some things. I was like, no, this is not going to happen. Like I want gaps. Actually, like for the first time in 12 years, which probably sounds insane to some people, like I actually have a lunch break in my schedule.
It doesn't sound insane to me. You're now preaching to my choir. This is great. Good. Let's see if more people listen. And I'll tell you what, I take Mondays. I started out with 4 hours because I was like, how do I do this at all? And by the way, that took a while. And then I was like, you know what? I need my 4 hours, and then I need 2 hours to implement. And then it turned out I actually needed 6 hours and 2 hours to implement, which meant the last 2 hours of every Monday of mine are always on Mondays. The last 2 hours of every day on Monday is taking a look at the next, not this next week because it's already done, but 2 weeks out and then 4 weeks out to make sure. I don't use EOS, but I'm familiar with the system to make sure that all those priorities are set. And what do I need to change? What conversations will I need to plan? How do I support that team to move those things out and around to do that? And it's fantastic. It is the best. I call them present retreats. I don't know what EOS calls them. But mine are called present retreats.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's so nice. It's so great to have that perspective. And, you know, really, like, I think just to make an appeal to maybe the doubter out there that's listening, you know, having been fresh in it right now too, you know, and I hate this saying in some cases, I think it's overused. Like, there is this slow down to go faster kind of thing. It's absolutely true when you give yourself that time. You realize how far ahead you can plan. And I come out of these things like mine's more like Friday. And so I come out Monday and people are like, whoa, all this stuff starts flowing out of Tobin with directions and changes and tweaks and things like that. Like, things just start moving because you just can't, unless you get that perspective and come back. Like, I try to limit myself coming out of sabbatical with changes in you know, initiatives and things like that. We can stay with our EOS process, but just having that perspective, like, you realize you put, you know, just saying like what you give back and you know, taking slices, give back in loaves. Like, there's this element, like, just taking that day almost gives you days of speed and efficiency and new things coming and growing in the future. Like, it just moves so much smoother, but it's just hard to, you can't just tack that in the end of the day. Like, you really need to have the slow down, the set aside. And it's only slow in the sense that we're used to the freneticness of daily work, but slow in the sense of you've got perspective. Like, you're stepping aside and doing that. So yeah, I'm a big believer in it now. And I think the sabbatical was a, you know, king size version of it. And now it's like, well, the weekly version of it is still really valuable to accomplish.
And here's what we're going to talk about, folks. We are going to take this conversation to the Fast Track Your Business platform. So for those of you who are around, you know what? I'm going to be asking the question next is going to be, what were the biggest surprises you learned from your team when you got back from sabbatical, and more. So for those of you who are listening into this, just out there in the Bold Business Podcast, you already have a lot of stuff. You know where to go. Tobin's information is not only going to be tagged in our social media, he is going to be, all of his contact information are on the show notes page for you. So stay tuned there. Everybody else, here we go.
You've been listening to Uncharted. Fast Track Your Business subscribers receive access to a vast set of resources, including extended conversations to this and other Uncharted episodes. Visit fasttrackyourbusinesstoday.com. Your preparedness and the right perspective is absolutely necessary when you find yourself somewhere uncharted.
Special thanks to the Scott Treatment for technical production.